Welcome to another episode of High Impact Garage, where we are going to work on the SR620. Today we're working on, this episode, we're working on getting the truck running. So this is going to be cool. Stick around. So right out of the gate, we've got a little bit of an issue, and that is that we didn't inspect close enough apparently, because we noticed that there's a fuel injector that's missing out of the fuel rail, and then there's a cap that's missing off of this fuel injector, and looks like these two are okay. So we're going to go ahead and take this fuel rail off. Darren's getting that done right now, and we're going to take care of those injectors. And by take care of those injectors, we have a fuel injector test bench back there, and we've worked it out so that we can test side feed fuel injectors like what this has. So we're actually going to run each of the injectors that are in here on that bench, and we're going to run one of our injectors that we know is the right size before we put it all back together again, so we know that the fuel system will be right. Alright, so my next step over here is I am taking the interface harness over here, and I am making sure that the wiring, I label each of these individual wires for what they are, so I know where they need to go to connect into the chassis harness so that the car will start and run. I'm also verifying that this harness is pinned correctly for an S15 SR20, which is S15 SR20 computer, which is what we have, and it looks to be the correct item. So we're going to go ahead and go with that. I will contact and make sure that I have everything I need correct though. But I'm going to start getting this pinned out and then get ready to interface this with the chassis harness. Alright, so we don't have the right pinout on Wiring Specialties website because this connector does not match what they have in their drawing. So it turns out that the pinout on this is different. I think what's happened is over the years, there have been changes that have been made to the production of the wire harness, and this was produced probably several years before. So I'm going to get on the phone, I'm going to make a phone call and see what I can do to get the information I need. I'm sure glad I made that phone call because I was able to find the pinout for this and also determine that in fact this is an S14 harness and the car is an S15 engine computer. So ultimately that is a problem. So we're going to be able to remedy this without having to change anything. We need to repin the ECU connector to match the ECU because the pinout does change on the ECU, and then I now have what I need to do to label this properly. Alright, so now I have figured out what these need to be, so then I can integrate these into the harness. But we have a new development in this wonderful world of getting this one running. Behold the sonic bath and injector testing machine, which has saved our bacon a bunch of times. But one thing that we're noticing is although the injectors are hooked up, none of them click. Literally none of them work. So Darren's over here trying to, that's what we should be hearing. So now we need to figure out what we've got to do for injectors. So we might have a few injectors. So we're going to try and work through what we have. Darren's going through this container over here to see what we've got. But in the meantime, this isn't looking good. So while Darren works on fixing the injector situation back there, he's going to try and save at least one of them. Oh, I thought I heard one click for a second. But anyway, while he does that, I have this engine harness. This is the engine bay wire harness. And a lot of the functionality in this harness is going to be gone. The only functionality I need out of this harness is going to be the front lights, the marker lights, the horn. that's it. That's all I need out of this harness, because all the rest of that stuff is transferring through here to the engine harness. So I've got to pare this mess down. Let's get to it. All right, so those injectors are now clicking. So Darren has got those in the sonic bath and they are working now. So that's going to be great. All right, Darren's testing these injectors for leaks. So far, nothing. All right, we've got one good injector and one sort of, well, one sort of injector.
We'll do the test a couple times. That one was seized. One of the seized injectors that finally got unstuck. So what we'll do is we'll flow test like 3-4 times. If they're even with each other, cool. If not, well, then we know we got one bad one.
All right, so we have 4 injectors that are going to work. There are differences between them in design, but they flow the same. So we've got injectors that will work in the car. Yeah. How do you feel about that?
I feel pretty good. Could you imagine if we actually started up his engine without going through seized injectors that were dead?
I can imagine what it would be like to try and start the engine with seized injectors, because we would be, what's going on? And I think the first thing we'd probably do is we'd go, it's a wiring problem. What did we hook up wrong? And we'd start tearing things apart. So this is one of the reasons why we go ahead and we have the injector test bench behind me. It's one of the reasons we have that, so we don't have questions about stuff. So now I have the wire diagram for the vehicle, thanks to nicoclub.com. And so now I've got the wire diagram ready, and I'm going to go tear this harness apart and section it out so that all that needs to be going to the engine harness goes into there, and everything else goes to where it needs to be. So we've got this wire harness that's in my lap all situated. I've gotten all of the crap out of it. There's some interesting things that end up put into wire harnesses from the 70s in Datsuns. Like, they have a little counter box, which I thought this was cool. And inside of that little window there's a counter, and it counts out the number of times the vehicle is started and gets a certain operating time, and it gives you a warning to turn on to check the EGR. Lots of silly stuff. We've taken all of the silly stuff out, and we'll only put back only the things that are required to make this thing run, and there's some functionality that goes to the other harness, so we'll make sure that interface is in. Anyway, that's where we're at right now. I'm gonna go ahead and start tugging stuff together and making it work. All right, so we got the wire harness integrated, and that is right here. So the integration's right here, and now we get to go ahead and wrap this harness up and get it into the car. Alright, so the great moment has come. We have a wire harness in the car now. So the wire harness is now bolt plugged up to the SR20. It is interfaced with the engine harness. The engine harness is plugged to the dash harness. So that's good. The next step is to hook up the charging system. So these leads go to the alternator. This is one of the this is the power lead in, and then so the starter needs to be put on. We need to orient the alternator, get that power lead set built, get the because the battery leads underneath the truck and to the battery that's going to go in the back, and get the battery relocation done, and then get all of our different grounding points added. Alright, so we've made a lot of progress towards getting that wiring into the vehicle and getting that stuff fixed. Now we have the work of getting that dash harness taken care of and getting the battery cables routed, and then hopefully getting on to firing the vehicle if we don't run into any other little complications. So thank you for watching, and we will catch you next time.